Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session of Virtual Dream in 2020, this new, how can I say, amazing, incredible new virtual event. And hope you all stay safe at home. Everything is a process, everything has, and you look at your business project. First of all, I want to thank our amazing sponsors and also our COVID-19 Resilience Fund and non-profit charity partners. So, some of you may already know me. I'm Enrico Muro. I'm a Salesforce technical architect. I'm the first Italian MVP, but unfortunately, this year I've not been recognized again. I'm so sorry about this, but you know, it's life. And I work for Web Results, which is an Italian Platinum and ISV Salesforce partner. Together with my colleague, Luca Miglioli, who's a key member of my team, I welcome you all to this virtual dreaming session titled Everything is a Process, Everything Has Steps, a new way to look at your business project. So what are we going to talk about? You got it, processes. Let's start with a quote by the American engineer and statistician Deming that perfectly sums up the purpose of this presentation. That is, you can't describe what you are doing as a process. You don't know what you are doing. This is an obvious statement, I guess, but I believe all of you can relate to this sentence. You cannot do anything unless you don't know what to do. Unless you know what to do, sorry, the opposite. But why this is important for your business? I'm a developer at heart, although it's like 2 years I don't write a single line of code at work. But this is not because I'm not, I forgot how to code, but because I'm doing some other high-level stuff. And you know, sometimes this misses me. But when I have a task that I should repeat at least twice, fundamentally, I'm a person. I try to write code to automate the task. There are jokes or memes around the internet that say that a developer can code like 24 hours to automate a task that can be compiled in 10 minutes, but it's another story. By writing code, I'm writing algorithms that are a way to manage data, so to organize data, to do something. As algorithms help us to manage data, processes help us to better organize the resources available to us, to our organization. From a practical point of view, it's important to avoid the waste of time, money, and energy, because in our limited world, resources are also limited. For example, we can look back to historical examples like Ford, Walmart, McDonald's, or even Dell, and see how they make a better business through the good management of processes. The everything as a process framework gives you a lot of benefits, like improving overall business performance with efficient use of resources, being more compliant with structured and quick responses to the fast evolution of the market, of what is happening around your company, your business. So we have Ford with his idea of the assembly line that which increased efficiency. McDonald's with the idea of fast service delivery to minimize waste of time and delivery food as fast as possible. It's not a coincidence I choose McDonald's in this speech because I'm a big fan of chicken McNuggets. Let's go on. So, as you can see in this picture, we have a process. This is a description of a process with all the building blocks. So let's assume that everything that happens can be described as a process, or otherwise a series of consecutive and logical steps linked to each other. But you know, there's more. Processes can be described as follows. They have a start and an ending point. They are divided in phases, the description of the current state of the process. so where I am in the process right now. And every step from one phase to another is called a transition or a modification of the process flow. Transition from one phase to the other is allowed only by execution via the execution of tasks or, let's say, activities that should be completed to make the transition. Also, there could be some conditions that controls the behavior of the execution of the process. Important. Processes are repeatable and regular, unlike projects that usually are like a one-time thing that happens once. So you don't need to actually automate it. Okay. To make an easier example, think what you did for joining this webinar. I hope, assuming it's, for example, morning in your place, in your country, you probably got up. I hope you got up. Otherwise, I don't know why you're here. Think what you did before. What you did. Sorry. You did some stuff or ate your breakfast. If you were hungry, of course. At some point, you turned it on your PC, and of course, you connected to the internet and started watching this event online. I describe all the events as a process, using all the assets that we have described in this slide. So the previous example seems quite easy to understand, but in the business context, processes are at 99.99% really complex and difficult to understand. You may be required to follow rules or laws, and we know how bureaucracy can be a mess. Managing those processes can be a challenging task. For example, processes could have more than one end state, or they could share common phases, or even they could evolve plenty of activities related to the same execution flow. So this is the mess we have described in this slide. On Salesforce platform, Salesforce.com platform, we have lots of tools like, to name a few, flows and process builder to create such automations. But when you have lots of phases and processes, you absolutely need more because you need control. So looking at this image to the right, this is a real life flow. I found it online. And this is actually really messy. For the sake of knowledge or experience, a few years ago, we had to take care of a giant flow that was track all the sites. It looked like a neural network, actually. And believe me, if I say it's been an hassle to change it, a little piece of it, or to change a normative, to change a law that was actually changed. A great part of the customer business was related to this gigantic flow. And I believe that the man or the woman who built it was actually crazy because I believe me, it was unmanageable. That's why we have worked a lot to deal with complex processes in my company. For example, in the energy and utilities sector, where we have a lot of customers, it's actually impossible to manage correctly all involved processes with this kind of complexity without a well-designed framework. Luke and I are here to share what we have learned so far, because we are on, aren't we? The first advice that we can give you is to list all the processes that are related to your business. We know that everything can be seen as a process, but it's important to list and define why and how a process is different from one another. What are the limits, if there are connection between them, and so on. Also, this list must be absolutely schematical. You need a bird's eye of your processes. Every process is related to a context of your business and to capabilities that describe the final purpose of the process. In this schema, we are highlighting all of the processes involved in specific company divisions. For example, marketing, sales, service, which deal a specific Salesforce entity, leads, accounts, contract, and so on. This schema allows us to understand exactly which process starts with which entity. This is like a starting point. This is our starting point of the process. For example, a promotion can start both from a lead or an account. And this is our schematic view of our processes in our business. We can go on. Once processes are listed, we need to find if these processes are coherent or not. It's possible to have a number of process steps that are incompatible with each other. And we need to avoid inconsistent results to preserve efficiency and also do some cost-saving actions. For example, we might have processes that share common phases or are dependent on each other. In your business, you can have defined relationships between the processes. And when a process depends on another, it should be and then unblocked, depending on whether or not it satisfies the context criteria anymore. So like semaphores, like green lights. A trivial example, I cannot activate a user if the user is being already in activation or is being already activated. We need to inspect these relationships and define the correct logic of execution. Doing this can simplify a lot the end user work and the management of the process, reducing the information noise produced by the process management time. Like in daily life, from a business perspective, you need data and information, but it comes not from a unique system of truth, but through multiple systems. It's important to track every interaction between the systems and your Salesforce CRM to control the information flow. We saw that every process could take with it some tasks or activities. Track whatever is related to a process to always have all the information available for the correct execution of the process. For example, your stock management system process, your stock management process system must dialogue with the billing system. And this one is fully integrated with the firm reporting system that produce content to share with high-level managers. So integration is key to your flow, to your business flow. To manage processes, it's important to identify every single status or every single path your process can run into. You need to decide if your process can transit from one status to the other by control and allow only some transition if some requirements have been met. This is all the previous aspects are managed by a controller or a so-called state machine that control the logical connection of phases for execution in the flow. The state machine is like a traffic officer that allows for or forbids process execution depending on a specific setting or condition. On top of the state machine, you can build your customization like quick action that allows for the Salesforce user to jump from one phase to the other, but the user may not need to explicitly know that he's actually passing from a phase to the other, from a status to the other. Okay. From a bird's eye view, what we need is to manage the processes to unleash the power of your organization, your business. Checking only the compatibility between processes without having listed them correctly is useless. Sorry, just like not having a good setup of your state machine without integrating it with external system to share or fetch data, as we can see in this bird's eye view of the definition of a process. If your process is not correctly set up, you may get stuck in any of this flow, in any part of this flow, and failing controlling it. That's not good, absolutely not good for your business, believe me. Last but not least, every single previous aspect needs to be controlled and well organized to manage in the better way possible the execution of the process. If you manage a lot of business processes, you truly need a BPM, a business process manager. Salesforce is not actually or only a BPM, but you can likely implement it through an application that does everything and beyond what we have seen before. It's important to pull all of these concepts together to manage correctly our processes. This is our expertise. All of this could be done using custom components or Apex classes, or luckily there's an app for that on the App Exchange named ProcessClick, where we as web results put all this knowledge and expertise. As you can see, all the concepts explained before are shown here as part of a unique set of capabilities. With this tool, you can manage in a unique ecosystem your business processes like an orchestrator, a BPM inside your Salesforce CRM. So now let's try to put into practice everything we've said so far. Let's use an example process. It's simple account validation. As you can see in this slide, according to the legend show here as well, the process is already structured in phases, transitions, activities, start and end phases. We want to validate accounts documents and signature using two activities that require different action on the user side. It's not the point to know what kind of action he has to do, but he or she has to do something to validate the document. If everything is not okay, so the first validation didn't pass, the process starts again. So we have a retraction. If preliminary validation by the user is okay, we can call an external system that verifies accounts credit affidability from a large database of banks and mortgage and so on. Thus, the account is validated or not, depending on the final response of the external system. We know that the process is characterized by its phases and transitions between them. Through the functionality, through the capabilities of ProcessClick, it's possible to configure and have always available the status diagram or transition diagram for each business process. Through the tool, it's also possible to configure states that let's say the trigger outbound calls to communicate with the external system. The small envelope you see on phase CC010, for example, billing system, distributors, EAA, and so on. The matrix visualization shows the process flow and all its phases. We can also better visualize, display different processes paths with this kind of UI. That allows us to better understand all the possible combination of the phases. You can see that here we have just two alternatives, one from stand that starts in start and then ends in end 020, sorry, but the phases inside are actually different. Okay. This is another view. This is a flow chart of the same process. The achieved process design can be easily exported and visualized for a quick and self-documented, let's say, review of the process. This is a graphical representation of the state machine and helps you understand what can happen inside the flow. We can say this is a case that starts from a start phase and from a status and then in the closed status, passing through different states. I guess this is all for the theory. I guess we can now start with the demo.
Okay, so here we are. We are impersonating a first level agent user, and this is our usual working environment. It is a Service Cloud configuration. Now our entry point is the account record page that Luca is selecting right now. We are looking for the Burlington Textile Corp of America. The account is the place where the process starts, what we defined before as the context. We notice that in this account record page, there is a component called new service request, which contains a link called business automation validation. Our aim is to activate the account by automatically setting the active pick list to yes, of course. By clicking it on the new link, our process starts and the new case is being created immediately with a specific record type configuration that that we have already been defined as part of our service setup. This is Luca is creating our brand new case. Okay, perfect. Okay, now we said during the slide that it's fundamental and really actually important to check compatibility between processes. If an account validation is already started, we want to avoid case duplicates on the same record. Luca has gone back to the same account, and if we click here again on the link that activated business account validator process, the ProcessClick engine blocks us from create the same process. This is the error message that the ProcessClick compatibility capability outputs if it finds that there are duplicate cases. Now, go back to the previous case that we have just created, and we can see we have a chevron path that indicates the phases progression related to this particular process. It shows that now we are currently in phase VAL 010, and we notice that now in this record all the validation steps in the section that Luca is now highlighting. Yes, exactly. All are all blank, and these are actually custom case fields. So in this phase, VAL 010, we need to compute one activity, to complete one activity related to the process execution, as you can see, in the box on the right. This is the condition that allows the transition between two consecutive phases, which is controlled by the state machine called phase manager. To complete the activity, as Luca is doing right now, we have to fill in some fields that are custom for the kind of activity, and then click the save button. What happens when Luca clicks the save button? The activity, which is a custom Salesforce, a custom object, the engine automatically detects that the process should move forward. In fact, we can see that the new case phase is VAL 040. If you remember, this is the next phase next to the preliminary validation. Simply has already happened. The new phase carries on new activities. In fact, you can see that there are two pending activities. We, as a service agent, actually Luca as a service agent, must complete all of this activity to move forward to the process. He's actually completing one activity, but we can put ourselves in a scenario where one of the validation are not marked as completed, but the validation failed some way. For example, there's an error in the document signed by the customer. So we have all the activity completed, although with different states, and we see that we have a validation. We have a new phase that's VAL 200. As Luca is showing, this means that something actually didn't go well as expected. In this phase, we imagine that our process is escalated to a second level agent who has to check the previous activities completed by the first level agent. And you can see there's another activity on the right panel. In this scenario, imagine that we notice something wrong and decide to restart all the validation process from scratch. First, we have to complete again the two-level review activity. Oh, sorry, maybe I'm going too fast. Okay. Okay, perfect. So what happened? Simply, Luca reviewed both activities, and then, as you've seen, there's a button, a series of buttons that appeared, and Luca clicked on the restart validation. This is a capability for the phase manager feature that actually displays buttons based on the status, and each buttons are associated with a specific action. This is really important. This button group has been made without any line of code. It's just point and click configuration on the ProcessClick. Now, as you can see, the process went back to the VAL 010 phase. And so we can go through an happy flow. So again, Luca can validate both actions exactly as he's doing right now. So he can do a preliminary validation of all documents. So this is the second action. Exactly. Perfect. Okay, this is the last, sorry. Perfect. Now, we are now in a new phase called CC010, and not in the previous phase that was VAL 200, because the conditions have changed. This is our callout phase to an external system, because we need to validate some credit requirements for that account based on an external database. That's an external system who may gives us information about credit situation of a customer. Note that the relative tracking fields below that Luca is showing are not populated, are not filled in, because we are waiting for an external service response. Now, if we refresh the page and wait for the call-in to complete, there's actually a background asynchronous job executed automatically by ProcessClick integration layer, and for technicians out there, it's an Apex callout. We call them Apex actions. The callout response makes the case transitioning in a new phase called END 010, which is the end phase for the OK result from that external system. As you can see in the credit validation section, exactly. The section is now correctly populated with all the information that came from the external system, and the status of the case is finally closed. What does it mean? It means that it means that the process is over. We can come back to the account record. Okay, as you can see, we have an active flag. Yes. Why? Because the account has actually been validated, and we talked about the possibility to execute action during the phases. And if you go to the chatter, you can see that we have posted something on the chatter related to the fact that the account has been successfully validated. This delivers you can deliver in this way some sort of collaboration. This is an action that is executed when we had the last, when we closed the case, so when the process was completed. Also, the context has changed because the account has been validated. And you can see that there are different processes that can be started from the account on the new service request. We don't have anymore the validate account, business account, but we have two more processes that can be started. They are the termination and the service account. So you can start some other service operation on the account. And this is automatically managed by the ProcessClick. In fact, you can actually create all sorts of catalog starting points from the account. So just to complete the whole view of what you have seen so far, this is the configuration of the ProcessClick. I want to show you that is actually simple and graphically easy to understand. So the ProcessClick have different tools, capabilities. There are much more than this, but we are just highlighting the most important. We have catalog, compatibility, phase manager, activities, and some other configuration. In the catalog tab, as Lucas just clicked, we can see that we have all the configuration, all the triggering links that you saw on the new service request on the account page. We have 3 different actions. In fact, the first was the business account validation, and the other 2, when the account was already validated, we have the deactivate account and the service request, the ask statement, ask bank statement. So each link, each action, each triggering catalog is configured, as Luca is showing us, with different criteria that you can use to show, to display the starting point or not. Okay, and there's much more also. On the compatibility tab, thank you, Luca. We can define different compatibility matrix for different objects. We are using the record type as the pivot field, and you can see it's quite trivial because this is of course a demo configuration. So here you can see that we prevent users from creating business account validation processes, cases, if there's another business account validation case that is actually not closed. The close condition is, as we said, the condition that says that a process is completed. We can go to the phase manager. That's the more interesting, because again you have different object types and each different record types, and you have a state machine. So you have on the left side the starting phases, and on the right side the ending phases. So the A and the M are different transition. If you remember, at some point we had a small component with some buttons, and those buttons can be configured in this matrix, and you can define exactly manual. They are called manual actions, or automatic action in the case you want an action to be executed automatically, or from external system, or from phase manager. Finally, you can see in the credit check phase, CC01. Luca, please click on the small envelope next. Yes, this is the envelope is what is referenced. It references a callout that we did in CC010. In this case, we can define condition and actions. So this is actually a trivial configuration, but you define what happens when the callout ends. Sorry. There are other 2 different views of the phase manager. That's the flowchart view, where you can actually see how the flow goes from the start to the beginning with all different branches and some kind of description. And the other view is related to the path. So you can state which is the starting phase and the end phase, and you can see all the different paths that you can run into during your process. And this is mainly what we have done so far in the demo. In the activities tab, we have all the activities that are actually actions that require some kind of form interaction with the user, and we can see the 4 cases activities created for our demo. There's also an account activity, but it was not related to our demo. Finally, we don't need to check for them. We have the integration tab, which is used to configure some information about some configuration about integration, like you can define callout templates, or even endpoint rules, services, and so on, monitoring and so on. And finally, the migration, of course, is used to migrate ProcessClick configuration from one org to the other, so you don't have to do it manually. I guess we have said everything that we wanted to say, and I want to thank you really much for joining our session, for being here, and want to thank you all the guys at Virtual Dreaming for for organizing this amazing event. If you have anything you want to ask us, or you want to know how what is ProcessClick, how it works, or you just want to know how web results can develop impressive and amazing app exchange apps, believe me, this is not an advertisement. Please contact us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. I guess we have said everything. Luca, do you want to greet our guests before closing?
Okay, thanks, Enrico. Thank you all for being here at this amazing event with Virtual Dreaming. And I think that's all. Don't go away, because we are here for some Q&A. 5 minutes, not so much, because there are next events to attend for. And go for your questions.
Thank you.